Okay, so the cabinet's finished. The next job is to sort out the drill bit storage. So I've built one of the trays, and this video will be about organising this tray for all the drill bit storage. Also, how to use this space here, and possibly this second drawer as well. So let's have a look. Okay, so we start by sizing the tray itself. So that's 9mm birch ply, and I'm just cutting it to size, and then cutting the edge strips and putting miters on them ready for glue up. I've checked all the sizes and I'm gluing up, and I'm using brad nails to pin it all together, using the other sides to lean the base on whilst I'm gluing up. So now I've cut the dividers for the tray. I think I need about 12 or something like that, and I just trim them down to size using a spacer on the track saw there, and I think there's about 12 there. And now I'm just making a spacer so I can easily place the spacer in with a screw and use that as a handle to lift it in and out. So just sand everything off. I think I'm using 120 grit there on a Mercer paper, just knocking off the top edges so it's nice and smooth. And there you can see the spacer with the screw as a handle. Just run a strip of glue, spread it, glue it down, and then I think I pin nail it or brad nail it to the base. I'm just using a block of wood to keep my fingers away from those pins. But it's just a case of working my way up from one side, marking on the back, pin nailing, and then I think at some point I start working in from the other side, so that the centre divider is the one with the variance in the width, all the others are the same size. And now I'm just working out the spacing for all the drill bits and the dividers I'm going to need. Some troughs have just 2 spaces and some troughs have 3. So I'm using the calipers here to work out the width and then just scribe a line and then mark it in pencil before cutting it on the miter saw. So I've created a spacer with a screw in it for setting the dividers, making sure they're at 90 degrees and all at the same spacing to each other, or each section of them at the same spacing to each other. And these just get a tiny bit of, I think it's Type Bond 3. They just get pushed in, and then use the screw to take the handle out. That's it, these don't get pin nailed. Originally these trays were going to use sections of pipe. You can see there the pipe, and I'm just using to hold the drill bits whilst I sand it up. And I think I'm going to spray with a clear coat varnish in a second, and then I line it with foam. So yeah, the PVC idea went out the window because they kind of took up too much space for each section of drill bits, and it wasn't very optimised use of the drawer space that I would have. So here I am just trimming the foam and lining the base of each trough. Now later on, not in this video, but I will be adding Dymo labels to each partition, and they will state the drill bit size, and also some kind of way of marking when I've taken a drill bit out which trough I took it from. So it might be a little hole where I move a pin around the tray itself, but that's not going to be in this video. If you follow me on Instagram, that will be there. This little tray here is for those step bits you can see, and I think later on I update that tray so that it also has a row for drill bit stops as well, but you'll see that in a later section of the video. Here I'm just using CA glue. I'm not using the activator, just the glue itself. I find the activator crystallises the glue and makes a bit of a mess, whereas if you just let it dry on its own, it does a very nice job, and it dries pretty quick. So a few pin nails just from both sides, and a lot in the bottom of the tray, probably overkill. I just knock off all the hooks from the saw. I think I need to resharpen my blade and just soften the edges. And I think, like I said, this tray gets a divider in it, but initially you'll see at this stage it doesn't. Just testing it for a fit. Probably a bit late for that. So this tray here is, I think it's an 18mm and a 12mm bit of birch ply glued together, and I leave a U shape of wood there so I can use some CA. Rather than clamping or pin nailing, I can just use some CA to hold it down, and the wood glue will set off. I did straighten it up on the table saw or the miter saw, and I just knocked off the edges with sandpaper. And I'm just marking up, cutting out a section on the end for a leather tab, and I just tidy it up with a chisel, and then I just trim a leather tab, which I'm going to fold over to make it have a bit of thickness to it on the fold when it's tabs up, so you can easily help lift the tray out, and you'll see that in a second. So I've applied the contact adhesive and it's set off now, so I'm just going to put pressure on it to stick it together. And you can see the little fold in the leather there that will give me a thumb grip for lifting out the tray. It fits beautifully into the little groove I've cut. I'm just marking up now for 2 holes which I'll drill and self-tap those bolts into. I'm just hole punching the leather and keying the leather ready for some more contact adhesive, which you see me applying now. On reflection, the bolt's probably not required. Yeah, a bit of overkill here, I think. The contact adhesive would be more than enough. Just applying some clamping pressure to really set that contact adhesive working. So that's just the hole pattern marked up, ready for drilling. I think about 16 holes. Set the depth stop on the drill, lock it down, and just work my way through. Actually, I think it's 20 holes. Not that it matters. So here's a useful little tip. If you use the point on the brad bit whilst it's in the drill press and lined against the fence, you can just mark up your holes so that when you come to drill them, you've already got a registration point. Here I'm just using a countersink to tidy up each of the holes, and then I coat the tray with some beeswax and fill it with all the countersink bits I have, and I think they're plug hole bits as well. Okay, so the last part of the top drawer is this sliding tray that will sit on top of the drill bits here. And I'm just cutting again, I think a 6mm piece of birch ply to size. This is a little jig I made for cutting 45-degree miters. I think it was late at night and I didn't want to use the miter saw. This has a bit more finesse to it using the Japanese saw anyway. It's quite accurate. So this is very similar to the first tray you saw me make. I used the spare sides as I progressed through doing the glue up to rest the base on. You'll see here now I glue that first one, pin nail it and use the other sides to rest it on there. And I work my way around just using pin nails, and I think I have 5 pins in from the sides of each miter afterwards as well. Okay, so I decided that I wanted a raised centre divider for this, and you can see this piece of wood here. I'm just marking the edges, and I'm going to set another line for the raise that I want on it. And I take it off to the bandsaw and I cut the curve. I cut the curve in straight lines and then just sand the curve into it. That's what you see me doing there. And just experimenting with the layout of the bits that I have. Perhaps I should have done that first. So yeah, I just mark a pencil line so I know where I can just lay the glue, just checking it's centered. I leave a little space in the middle and at the edges there for some CA glue so I can use the combination of wood glue and CA glue. Just working out the placements for the cross dividers using again a pencil line and CA. So glue, these have been sanded, edges knocked off. I glue them in, and there will be foam bases to each of these sections. So a little bit of beeswax just to protect the wood, and just using the space of each tray to mark a little slit in the edge of the foam, and then taking a ruler to where those slit marks are and joining them up. Very easy way of reference cutting the foam for the trays. Anyhow, that's pretty much it. You'll see this tray go into the drawer in a second. But yeah, if you've enjoyed this one, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow me on Instagram and Facebook. But yeah, most of all, subscribe here so you catch the next video. I did mention that on the tray there, I'm going to have a little some way of marking which drill bits I've taken out of there, and also drill bit sizes. So that's all going to be on there. So you'll see that on Instagram. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. Any comments, questions, let me know. I appreciate the comments and I'll try and answer everyone. Cheers, guys.